This isn't a daycare, sweetheart. Go make coffee." The words cut across the NATO shooting range like a blade through silence. 23 personnel freeze mid-motion, ears turning toward the voice. Marcus Bennett stands at lane 7, arms crossed over his instructor vest, biceps straining fabric designed for smaller men. His grin spreads wide, teeth bright against tan skin, weathered by a decade of outdoor training. Behind him, the firing line stretches 200 meters into open field, targets waiting in afternoon heat that makes the air shimmer and dance. Rachel Carter stands 3 feet away, clipboard pressed against her chest, boots planted shoulder-width apart on gravel that crunches under shifting weight. She does not reply. Her jaw stays locked, eyes fixed on a point beyond Marcus's left shoulder, where range flags snap in the wind. Blonde hair pulled tight into a regulation bun reveals a face scrubbed clean of makeup, skin pale except for faint freckles across the bridge of her nose. The NATO evaluation badge clipped to her collar reflects sunlight in brief, sharp flashes. Marcus steps closer, invading the space protocol dictates should remain clear during range operations. "Slot 7 is mine, has been for 3 years. You can observe from the tower." He jerks his thumb toward the elevated platform where range officers monitor shooters through binoculars and radio headsets. "Safety first, right? Wouldn't want you getting hurt." Laughter ripples through the cluster of instructors gathered near the equipment shed. 4 men, all wearing the same vest Marcus does, all watching with expressions ranging from amusement to curiosity. One nudges another, whispering something that makes them both snicker. The sound carries poorly across open ground, but the intent lands clean. Rachel's fingers tighten on the clipboard, white knuckles, tendons visible. Then she breathes. 4 seconds in through the nose, chest expanding in a way that suggests practiced discipline rather than panic. 4 seconds held, diaphragm locked. 4 seconds out through pursed lips, shoulders dropping exactly 1 inch. 4 seconds pause, body still as carved stone. The pattern repeats. Inhale, hold, exhale, pause. 60 feet away, leaning against the concrete barrier that separates active lanes from the observation area, Robert Fletcher watches this exchange with eyes that have seen 40 years of military service and 12 combat deployments. Gray hair, cropped military short frames, a face line deep around the mouth and eyes. He wears civilian clothes, jeans, and a faded polo, but his posture screams veteran. Spine straight, weight balanced, hands loose at his sides, never in pockets. When Rachel completes her 3rd breathing cycle, Bob's eyebrows lift a fraction of an inch. That pattern, 4444, he knows it. Tactical breathing. The kind special operations forces drill into muscle memory for situations where adrenaline dumps into the bloodstream, and clear thinking means survival. Nobody teaches that pattern to admin personnel or civilian contractors. Nobody needs it for paperwork and coffee runs. Bob straightens from the barrier, attention sharpening. He glances at the range officer stationed 10 feet to his right, a young corporal focused on his radio, and oblivious to the developing situation at lane 7. Bob says nothing, not yet, but he keeps watching. Marcus reaches out, plucking the clipboard from Rachel's grip before she can react. He flips through the pages clipped there, documents stamped with NATO letterhead and filled with columns of data. Evaluation request, range certification, weapons qualification. He laughs, short and sharp. "You filled this out yourself? Cute, real cute." He tosses the clipboard onto the gravel at her feet. Papers scatter, one sheet catching wind and tumbling toward the firing line, before snagging on a metal ammunition crate. Rachel does not move to retrieve them. She stands exactly where she was, hands now empty and hanging at her sides. Her eyes track from Marcus to the scattered papers to the instructors still watching, then back to Marcus. No expression crosses her face. No anger, no embarrassment, no fear. Just flat, neutral assessment. The kind a person uses when memorizing exit routes in unfamiliar buildings. "Look," Marcus continues, voice taking on false patience like an adult explaining algebra to a struggling child. "I get it. Diversity initiative, equal opportunity, all that. But this range handles live fire drills for NATO counterterrorism units. We test special forces candidates, guys who've been shooting since they could hold a rifle." He spreads his hands in a gesture meant to convey reasonableness. "This isn't personal. It's about standards, safety. You understand, right?" Behind him, Captain Brian Foster emerges from the range operations building, a prefabricated structure painted dull green and marked with safety warnings in 4 languages. Foster is 42, medium height, medium build, the kind of officer who blends into backgrounds and avoids direct confrontation when possible. His uniform shows no wrinkles, no dust, no signs of actual field work. He carries a tablet computer and a radio on his belt. When he spots the scene at Lane 7, his pace slows. He does not approach. Instead, he angles toward the equipment shed where the other instructors stand, joining their loose formation and speaking in tones too quiet to carry. Rachel bends, retrieving her clipboard from the gravel. Dust smudges the white pages. She brushes it away with careful strokes, then removes a pen from her pocket and makes a notation in the margin of the top sheet. Her handwriting is precise, each letter formed with mechanical consistency. She replaces the pen, tucks the clipboard under her left arm, and finally speaks. Rangemaster Davis approved my slot assignment at 0800 hours this morning. Her voice carries no inflection, stating fact the way weather reports announce rain percentages. Lane 7, time block 1400 to 1600 hours. Confirmation number Alpha 379. Marcus's grin widens. Davis isn't here. Took emergency leave yesterday. His kid got sick. He taps to the instructor badge on his vest. I'm senior instructor until he returns, which means I handle slot assignments, and I'm reassigning you. He pauses, letting the words settle. Administrative observation only. Tower access. You'll get a great view of how real shooters operate. Something flickers across Rachel's eyes, gone too fast to name. She nods once, a single sharp dip of her chin that could mean acknowledgement or something else entirely. Then she turns, walking toward the tower with measured steps that crunch gravel in steady rhythm. Her spine stays straight, her shoulders stay level. She does not look back. Marcus watches her go, satisfaction plain on his features. He rotates toward his fellow instructors, spreading his arms in a "what can you do" gesture that triggers another round of laughter. Captain Foster permits himself a small smile, then returns his attention to the tablet screen, thumb scrolling through whatever data occupies his focus. Bob Fletcher crosses the distance to the range officer's position, moving with the unhurried confidence of someone who has earned the right to go where he pleases. "Corporal Jenkins," he says, voice pitched low enough not to carry beyond their immediate space. "You've got the range log, correct?" Jenkins looks up from his radio, recognition brightening his features. "Master Sergeant Fletcher, yes sir. Well, I mean, you're retired, so I shouldn't call you sir, but..." Bob waves off the fumbling protocol. "The log. I need to see today's slot assignments." Jenkins hesitates, glancing toward where Marcus now occupies Lane 7, setting up equipment with practiced efficiency. "Is there a problem?" "Just checking something." Bob keeps his tone casual, conversational. Humor an old man's curiosity. The corporal pulls a battered tablet from a weatherproof case bolted to the observation barrier. He taps the screen several times, pulling up a document filled with rows and columns. Bob leans in, scanning the information with eyes that still function perfectly, despite decades of sun exposure and close-quarters combat. There, Lane 7, time block 1400 to 1600, assigned to R. Carter, approved by Rangemaster Davis, confirmation A379. Bob commits the information to memory, then steps back. "Appreciate it, Corporal." "No problem, Master Sergeant." Jenkins returns the tablet to its case, already shifting focus back to his radio and the afternoon's scheduled activities. Bob turns, locating Rachel's position halfway up the tower stairs, a metal structure that shakes slightly under her weight despite solid construction. She climbs without using the handrails, balance perfect, boots finding each step center mass. Another small thing, another detail that separates trained operators from civilian contractors who spend their days behind desks. The afternoon continues its slow progression toward evening. On the active lanes, 3 NATO personnel complete rifle qualification drills, each shooter accompanied by an instructor who calls corrections and monitors safety protocols. Brass casings clink onto concrete, ejecting from weapons that bark and echo across the range. Targets downfield show fresh holes clustering near center mass, evidence of competent marksmanship. The smell of gunpowder hangs thick and acrid, mixing with dust kicked up by boots and wind. If you've ever been underestimated or judged unfairly, hit that like button to support this story. And if you believe justice will prevail, click the thanks button to help us bring more stories like this to light. 15 minutes pass. Marcus completes his first drill, a standard grouping test at 100 meters that puts all 10 rounds within a 6-inch circle. He steps back from the firing line, weapon pointed safely downrange, and removes his ear protection. "Clear," he calls, signaling the completion of his evolution. The range officer acknowledges with a thumbs up. Marcus begins breaking down his equipment, field stripping the rifle with movements so automatic his hands could perform them blindfolded. As he works, his gaze drifts toward the tower where Rachel stands at the observation window, binoculars raised to her face. Even from this distance, her stillness stands out. She has not moved in quarter of an hour, has not shifted weight or adjusted position. Just that same frozen watchfulness, like a raptor scanning for prey. By 14:45, the range schedule shifts. 2 of the active shooters complete their qualifications and depart, leaving only 1 lane occupied. Marcus approaches the equipment shed where his fellow instructors have gathered, joining a conversation already in progress. "Saw her paperwork," one of them is saying, a stocky man named Grant with a Boston accent that flattens his vowels. "All legitimate. Davis signed off personally." "Davis signs off on lots of things," another instructor responds. This one younger, maybe 28, with a thin scar bisecting his left eyebrow. "Doesn't mean they're good ideas. Remember that politician's son he let through? Kid couldn't hit a target at 50 meters. Marcus grabs a water bottle from a cooler, drinking half in 3 long swallows. "She'll wash out in the written eval anyway. Probably doesn't know the difference between cover and concealment." Captain Foster clears his throat, drawing attention without raising his voice. "Speaking of evaluations, I need to review her credentials more carefully. Something about her file doesn't match our database correctly." He taps his tablet. "The reference numbers are formatted wrong. Could be a clerical error, could be something else." "You think she faked her application?" Grant's eyebrows lift. "I think," Foster says carefully, "that we should verify everything before allowing her onto a live fire range. NATO standards exist for a reason. One mistake, one underqualified individual, and we're all answering to Brussels." He glances toward the tower. "I'll make some calls, confirm her background. Until then, administrative observation is appropriate." The conversation continues, speculation building on speculation. They discuss other candidates who failed, other times standards were allegedly lowered, other examples of why rigorous gatekeeping protects everyone involved. The subtext runs clear beneath the words. Some people belong here, and some do not. Determining which category applies is their sacred duty. Up in the tower, Rachel lowers the binoculars. She produces a small notebook from her pocket, the kind with waterproof pages, and a pen loop on the spine. She writes something, 3 lines of text in that same precise handwriting, then returns the notebook to her pocket. When she raises the binoculars again, her focus settles not on the active firing lanes, but on the equipment shed, on the cluster of instructors visible through the open door. Bob Fletcher has moved to a position near the ammunition bunker, a reinforced concrete structure set back 30 feet from the main range area. He appears to be examining the bunker's exterior, running one hand along the wall, as if checking for cracks or damage. In reality, his attention never leaves Rachel. He watches her watch them, and understanding begins to crystallize in his mind. This is not what it appears. This woman with her quiet stillness and her tactical breathing and her perfect balance. She is not here to prove she belongs. She already knows she does. So what is she really doing? At 1500 hours, Marcus returns to Lane 7 with a different rifle, this one configured for longer range work. He sets up at the 200-meter line, adjusting a scope and checking his data book for wind corrections. The afternoon breeze has picked up, flags now extending nearly horizontal, gusting to 15 miles per hour from the northwest. Not ideal conditions, but well within the parameters for qualification standards. Rachel descends from the tower. She moves down the stairs with the same controlled precision she demonstrated climbing up, boots finding each step without visual confirmation, eyes scanning the range layout as if memorizing every detail. When she reaches ground level, she does not head for the parking area or the operations building. Instead, she walks to the equipment shed. Marcus spots her approaching and straightens from his rifle setup. "Forget something? Request permission to observe from the firing line." Rachel's tone remains neutral, but her posture has shifted. Feet slightly wider, weight more forward, chin up half an inch. Small changes that alter her entire presence. Tower view doesn't provide adequate sight picture assessment. Adequate sight picture assessment, Marcus repeats, making the phrase sound ridiculous through exaggerated enunciation. You even know what that means? Yes. The single syllable hangs between them. Rachel does not elaborate, does not defend, does not explain. Just that one word, flat and certain. Marcus exchanges glances with Grant and the younger instructor, both of whom have moved closer to watch this interaction. Fine, he says finally. Stand behind the concrete barriers at lane 8. Don't touch anything. Don't talk. Don't distract me while I'm shooting. He pauses. And if you get in the way, you're done, permanently. Rachel walks to the designated position, taking up a spot that provides clear sightline to both Marcus's lane and the downrange targets. She stands with hands clasped behind her back, parade rest, a military posture that should look natural on a NATO range, but somehow feels wrong on her. Too perfect, too ingrained. Marcus returns to his rifle, settling into shooting position with practiced efficiency. He controls his breathing, same way every shooter does, though his pattern is less structured than Rachel's 4-4-4-4. He breaks his first shot. The rifle cracks, recoil driving back into his shoulder. Downrange, a white splash appears on the target, high and right of center. He adjusts. The scope clicks as he dials corrections, muttering calculations under his breath. Second shot, closer to center but still right. Third shot, better. By the fifth shot, he's found his rhythm, and the next 5 rounds cluster tight in the target's center ring. Clear, Marcus calls, safing the rifle and stepping back. He removes his ear protection, turning to address the instructor who's been recording his performance. How'd that look? Solid, 9 of 10 in the qualification zone. The instructor makes notes on a scorecard. Wine got you on the first one. Marcus grins, satisfaction evident. Then his eyes cut to Rachel. Learn anything, sweetheart? Rachel tilts her head slightly, gaze moving from Marcus to the target and back. Your first 3 shots pulled right. Trigger control issue, not wind. You're braking with the pad of your finger instead of the crease. Creates lateral pressure. She delivers this assessment in the same emotionless tone she's used for everything else, stating observation without judgment or superiority. Silence drops over the firing line like a heavy blanket. Marcus's grin vanishes. Excuse me? Your trigger press. The rifle's moving right as you break the shot. Consistent pattern across the first 3 rounds before you corrected. Rachel's hands remain behind her back, posture unchanged. Common error, easily fixed with dry fire practice. Grant laughs, short and sharp. She's critiquing your fundamentals, Marcus. That's rich. Marcus's face flushes red beneath his tan. You got a lot of nerve. You haven't fired a single round today, and you're telling me how to shoot? Rachel does not respond. She simply returns her attention to the downrange targets, as if the conversation has concluded and requires no further input from her. You know what? Marcus steps closer, entering her personal space for the second time today. I'm tired of this. You want to prove you belong here? Fine. Range time just opened up on lane 6. Let's see what you can do. Captain Foster, who has been observing from the equipment shed, steps forward. Bennett, that's not... She wants to evaluate. She can evaluate herself. Marcus cuts him off with a sharp gesture. Standard qualification, 100 meters, 10 rounds. If she can't score at least 7 in the qualification zone, she admits this was a waste of everyone's time and leaves. Deal? Rachel turns to face him fully. For 3 long seconds, she says nothing. Then, I don't have issued ear protection. Mine was misplaced. Convenient, Grant mutters. I'll loan you a set, the younger instructor offers, surprising everyone. He retrieves a pair from his gear bag, handing them over. Fresh batteries, properly sealed. Rachel accepts them with a nod. Rifle? Marcus gestures toward the equipment rack. Take your pick. They're all zeroed. No excuses about unfamiliar weapons. She walks to the rack, examining the available rifles with careful attention. Her hands move over the weapons, checking actions, testing trigger weight, inspecting sights. Every movement demonstrates familiarity, the kind that comes from thousands of repetitions. She selects a standard-issue rifle, performs a functions check, and carries it to lane 6. Bob Fletcher, still positioned near the ammunition bunker, has moved close enough to observe clearly. His expression has shifted from curiosity to intense focus. He knows what he's seeing now, knows it in his bones, in the way only someone with his background can recognize. But he still says nothing. This needs to play out. Rachel settles into shooting position at the 100-meter line. She removes a magazine from the ammunition supply provided at each lane, inspecting it briefly before loading. The magazine seats with a decisive click. She chambers around, checks that the safety is engaged, and assumes a prone position that locks her body into perfect natural point of aim. Left leg extended, right leg bent, elbow under the rifle, cheek welded to the stock. Marcus stands behind the concrete barrier at her lane, arms crossed. Whenever you're ready. Rachel does not rush. She performs a complete pre-shot routine, checks the wind flags, estimates correction, adjusts her position by millimeters, controls her breathing, 4444. The pattern cycles twice. Then she flicks the safety off and breaks her first shot. The rifle barely moves, recoil absorbed through proper body position, muzzle returning to target without deviation. Downrange, a hole appears in the target's center ring. Second shot, same result. Third shot, fourth, fifth. By the sixth shot, a small crowd has gathered. Instructors from other lanes, range personnel, even 2 NATO observers who were reviewing administrative paperwork in the operations building. They stand in loose formation behind the firing line, watching in silence as Rachel continues her string. 7th shot, 8th, 9th, 10th, clear. She safes the weapon, removes the magazine, locks the bolt back, and stands. No celebration, no visible emotion, just the mechanical completion of the assigned task. The range officer retrieves binoculars, glassing the target. His eyebrows climb toward his hairline. Holy, all 10 rounds center mass, grouping within 4 inches. Someone whistles low and long. Grant shakes his head slowly. Lucky wind. Lucky 10 times in a row? The younger instructor sounds skeptical. Marcus's jaw works like he's chewing something bitter. Beginner's luck. Happens sometimes. Adrenaline, tunnel vision. She probably couldn't replicate that if she tried. Rachel returns the rifle to the rack, the ear protection to its owner. She picks up her clipboard from where she left it on the concrete barrier and makes another notation. Then she walks toward the exit gate, apparently finished with her business here. Hey, Marcus calls after her. We're not done. She pauses, turning back. I completed the demonstration you requested. Is there something else? Yeah, there's something else. Marcus closes the distance between them, voice rising. You don't just show up, shoot perfect, and walk away. That's not how this works. Who trained you? Where'd you learn to shoot like that? I've had practice. Practice. Marcus laughs without humor. Right, practice. You know what I think? I think someone coached you through that. Told you exactly what to do. Probably Davis set this whole thing up before he left. Gave you the answers to the test. Rachel's expression does not change. I shot alone. You watched the entire evolution. Doesn't prove anything. You could have memorized. He stops mid-sentence, a new thought occurring. Show me your credentials. Right now. Let's see this paperwork Foster was talking about. Captain Foster has access to all personnel files through official channels. I want to see yours, specifically. Marcus extends his hand, palm up. Your identification, your training records, your authorization to be here. Rachel reaches into her pocket, producing a NATO-issued identification card in a clear plastic holder. She hands it over without hesitation. Marcus examines it, turning it over, holding it up to the light. The photo matches her face. The name reads Carter, Rachel M. The organization code indicates civilian contractor status. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. Except, Foster has moved closer, reading over Marcus's shoulder. His eyes narrow as he focuses on the reference number printed at the bottom of the Zard. That formatting, he murmurs. It's not standard for contractors hired after 2020. This is the old system. Old system means what? Grant asks. Means it was issued before NATO centralized their databases. Could be legitimate. Could be someone doctored an old credential. Foster pulls out his tablet. I'm running the number. Give me a minute. The seconds stretch. Rachel stands perfectly still, hands at her sides, face neutral. Around her, the assembled personnel shift weight, exchange glances, radiate tension like heat from summer pavement. Somewhere in the distance, another range fires up. The crack, crack, crack of rifle shots echoing across open ground. Foster's tablet chimes. He reads the screen, and his expression shudders. The reference number doesn't match any active contractor in the current database. Ha! Marcus's triumph rings clear. Fake credentials. I knew it. It doesn't match, Foster continues slowly, because it predates the current system by 4 years. It's an archival entry. To access the full record, I'd need higher clearance than I currently have. The statement lands like a stone in still water. ripples spreading outward. Bob Fletcher, listening from his position 15 feet away, allows himself a small smile. Now it gets interesting. Archival entry? The younger instructor frowns. What does that mean? Foster does not answer immediately. His fingers move across the tablet screen, attempting different searches, each one apparently hitting the same wall. It means her credentials are legitimate, but they're classified at a level above my authorization, which makes no sense for a civilian contractor. Marcus snatches the ID card back from Foster, studying it again as if the plastic might reveal secrets through sheer force of will. This has to be a mistake, a glitch in the system. Maybe, Foster concedes, or maybe we're missing something. Rachel extends her hand. My identification, please. Marcus does not return it. Instead, he pockets the card, a move that violates at least 3 NATO regulations regarding personal documents. I'm holding on to this until we verify your story. You can collect it from Captain Foster after he completes his investigation. That's not, the younger instructor starts. It's fine, Foster interrupts, though his discomfort shows in the way he won't meet Rachel's eyes. Standard security protocol when credentials can't be immediately verified. Carter, you'll need to remain on base until we clear this up. Probably just a few hours. Worst case, tomorrow morning. Rachel nods once. No argument, no protest. Where should I wait? Operations building has a lounge. Help yourself to coffee. Foster gestures vaguely in that direction. I'll send word when we have answers. She walks away, leaving behind a cluster of confused instructors and one very thoughtful retired master sergeant. Bob watches her go, noting the way she moves through space, the way her eyes catalog every vehicle in the parking area, every person visible around the range complex. She is not worried. She is not scared. If anything, she seems expectant, like someone waiting for a specific domino to fall. Marcus returns to his lane, but the satisfaction has drained from his features, replaced by something harder. He confers with Grant in low tones, both men glancing toward the operations building, where Rachel has disappeared inside. Whatever they discuss, it involves hand gestures and serious expressions and occasional head shakes. Foster makes 3 phone calls over the next 20 minutes, each one more frustrating than the last. Bob cannot hear the details, but he reads the captain's body language easily enough. Roadblocks, bureaucracy, the familiar runaround that happens when someone asks questions about information they're not cleared to access. At 15:45, with the afternoon sun angling toward golden hour, Marcus approaches Foster with determination written across his features. This is ridiculous. We've got a potential security breach, and you're waiting for phone calls? I say we pull her slot permanently. She can appeal through proper channels if she wants, but until then she's banned from this range. We can't just... Yes, we can. You're acting rangemaster until Davis returns. You have the authority. Marcus's voice carries the edge of someone accustomed to getting his way. Look, Brian, think about it. If she's legitimate, she'll be cleared and reinstated. No harm. But if she's running some kind of scam, if those credentials are fake, do you want to be the officer who let her access NATO weapons and training facilities? Foster hesitates, clearly uncomfortable with the pressure. He looks at his tablet, then at the operations building, then back at Marcus. I need to make one more call. Make it. I'll wait. The call lasts 7 minutes. From Bob's position, carefully maintained at observational distance, the captain's half of the conversation sounds increasingly frustrated. Yes, he understands protocol. Yes, he knows this is irregular. Yes, but what is he supposed to do when the system won't confirm or deny? Finally, Foster ends the call and rubs his face with both hands, the gesture of a man who has aged 5 years in 5 hours. Well, Marcus prompts, her records are sealed. Above my clearance, above my commander's clearance. The liaison in Brussels says they'll send someone to verify, but it won't be until tomorrow at the earliest. Foster exhales slowly. Protocol says I should allow her to continue as scheduled until we receive contrary orders. Protocol also says we maintain range security. Marcus's tone sharpens. You're the acting authority. Make the call. The weight of command, even temporary command, settles visible on Foster's shoulders. He looks at the operations building again, at the closed door behind which Rachel presumably waits. Then he nods, decision made. All right, we suspend her range access pending verification. Administrative hold. She can reapply after the investigation clears. Marcus's grin returns, sharp and satisfied. I'll inform her. No, Foster says firmly. I'll handle it. This is my decision. I'll deliver it. They walk together toward the operations building, Marcus matching Foster's pace half a step behind, the physical manifestation of pressure and influence. Bob considers intervening, considers saying what he suspects, what he's almost certain is true. But military protocol runs deep, and he no longer wears the uniform that would give his words weight. So, he stays silent, watching, waiting for the moment when truth can no longer hide behind bureaucratic walls. The operations building door opens. Foster and Marcus enter. 3 minutes pass. The door opens again, and Rachel emerges, followed by both men. Her expression remains neutral, but something about her posture has changed. Tighter, coiled, like a spring compressed to maximum tension and waiting for release. Foster speaks, his words carrying across the warm afternoon air. "Carter, I'm sorry, but until we verify your credentials, I'm suspending your range access. It's not personal, it's policy," Rachel finishes. "I understand. You can remain on base in temporary housing, or you're free to leave and return when we've cleared this up. I'll stay." She glances at the setting sun, estimating time. "Is the equipment shed accessible? I'd like to review range documentation, public records, safety protocols, that sort of thing." Marcus and Foster exchange looks. "Why would you need that?" Marcus asks. "Professional interest. If I'm going to be here anyway, I might as well be productive." "The shed's locked after 1600 hours, Foster says, "but the operations building has a technical library. Second floor, east wing. Help yourself." Rachel nods her thanks and returns inside. The door closes behind her with a soft click that somehow sounds like a cage door shutting. Marcus watches her go, then turns to Foster with something between suspicion and triumph on his face. "She's up to something," he says. "Or she's exactly what she claims to be, and we're making fools of ourselves." Foster does not sound convinced by his own words. "Either way, we've done our due diligence. The system will sort it out." They part ways, Foster heading to the range office to file paperwork, Marcus returning to his lane to complete the day's scheduled training. Around them, the range continues its normal operations. Shooters fire, officers monitor, equipment is maintained and logged and stored, everything proceeding according to routine, according to expectation. Except nothing about this is routine. Bob Fletcher approaches the operations building, moving with purpose. The door is unlocked, as it should be during operational hours. Inside, the lobby is empty. Just industrial furniture and bulletin boards covered in safety notices and training schedules. He climbs the stairs to the second floor, boots quiet on metal steps. The technical library occupies a room at the end of the east wing corridor. The door stands open, revealing shelves lined with binders, file boxes, and dusty manuals. Rachel sits at a table in the center of the room, 3 large binders spread open in front of her. She is writing in her waterproof notebook, transferring information with careful precision. Bob knocks on the doorframe, announcing his presence. Rachel looks up, recognizes him from the range, and nods acknowledgement. "Master Sergeant Fletcher, retired," Bob says, introducing himself. "Mind if I join you?" It's a public library. He enters, taking a seat across from her. For a moment, neither speaks. Bob examines the binders she has selected. Range incident reports from the past 3 years, equipment maintenance logs, personnel rotation schedules. Not the kind of reading material that would interest a casual civilian contractor. 4-4-4-4, Bob says quietly. Tactical breathing. I haven't seen anyone use that pattern in a while, not since I was downrange with special operations task forces. Rachel's pen pauses mid-word, then continues. It's a common stress management technique, common in specific communities. Bob leans back in his chair, hands folded on the table. Also common, the way you cleared that rifle, the way you shot, the way you stood at parade rest like you've done it 10,000 times. He pauses. I've trained with enough operators to recognize one when I see them. I'm a civilian contractor. Sure you are. Bob's tone carries no challenge, only observation. And Bennett's an excellent judge of character, and Foster runs a tight ship. And everything we've seen today makes perfect sense. Rachel closes her notebook, giving Bob her full attention. What's your point, Master Sergeant? My point is that you're playing a long game, and I don't think Bennett or Foster realize what they've stepped into. Bob keeps his voice low, conversational. I also think you're gathering evidence. Those binders, that notebook, you're building a case. That's an interesting theory. It's the only theory that explains why you took their insults without fighting back. Why you didn't pull rank or credentials when you clearly could have. Bob studies her face, reading micro-expressions most people miss. You needed them to make mistakes, to reveal themselves, and they're cooperating beautifully. Rachel is silent for a long moment. Then, if what you're saying was true, hypothetically, what would you do with that information? Hypothetically? Bob allows himself a slight smile. I'd stay out of your way and watch the show. I've seen enough corrupt officers and arrogant instructors in my career. If someone's finally holding them accountable, I'm not about to interfere. Hypothetically. Hypothetically. Bob stands, pushing his chair back in. One more thing. Bennett's been selling range data, equipment specifications, training schedules, security protocols, selling it to people who shouldn't have access. I've suspected for months, but I couldn't prove it. Rachel's expression does not change, but her eyes sharpen, focus narrowing to laser precision. How do you know? Because I'm old, not blind. I notice when shipment manifests don't match actual inventory. When classified equipment malfunctions and gets sent off base for repair but never comes back. When training schedules get leaked to groups who use them to plan counter operations. Bob moves toward the door, then pauses. Foster knows, or at least suspects. He's been covering for Bennett because they served together back when they were both enlisted. Old loyalty, misplaced priorities. If you couldn't prove it, what makes you think I can? Because you're not gathering evidence about your own qualifications. You're gathering evidence about them. Bob gestures at the binders. Incident reports, maintenance logs, personnel schedules. You're looking for patterns, discrepancies, proof of misconduct. Which means you already knew what you'd find before you got here. Rachel does not confirm or deny. She simply returns to her notebook, pen resuming its steady progress across the page. Bob leaves her there, descending the stairs and exiting into late afternoon sun that paints everything gold and amber. He crosses the parking area to his truck, an old Ford that has survived 2 decades and 300,000 miles. Before starting the engine, he pulls out his phone and sends a single text message to a number he has not contacted in 6 months. You were right, she's here. And it's about to get very interesting. The response comes back within 30 seconds. Stay close. Document everything you can. We'll need testimony. Bob pockets the phone and drives away from the range, already planning tomorrow's return. Whatever Rachel Carter is, whatever operation she is running, it is approaching critical mass, and Bob Fletcher has no intention of missing the resolution. Back in the technical library, Rachel completes her documentation. She photographs 12 pages from the equipment maintenance log, focusing on entries where quantities and serial numbers fail to match. She cross-references these with the incident reports, noting 3 occasions where equipment malfunction occurred within 24 hours of scheduled inspections. Pattern established. Evidence collected. Her phone vibrates. She checks the message, reads it twice, then deletes it. The sender is listed as unknown, but she knows exactly who it is and what the message means. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2 at 0600. Target confirmed. Rachel returns the binders to their shelves, arranging them exactly as she found them. She wipes down the table surface, removing any trace of her presence. Then she descends to the first floor and exits the building, walking toward the temporary housing units located behind the motor pool. The sun sets. The range goes quiet. Tomorrow will bring new developments, new confrontations, new opportunities for truth to surface. But tonight, in the gathering dark, Rachel Carter sits alone in a sparse room and prepares for the endgame that is coming. She cleans her personal sidearm, a weapon she has not yet revealed. She reviews her notes, memorizing details until she can recite them without reference. She performs 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, keeping her body sharp and ready. Then she lies down on the narrow bed and closes her eyes. 4-4-4-4. Tactical breathing. The pattern that has carried her through firefights and ambushes and missions where one wrong move meant death. Tomorrow, she will need it again. Tomorrow, the mask comes off. Do you think she has what it takes to turn this around? Comment yes if you believe justice is coming. And stay tuned. The next part reveals everything. 0600 hours arrives with gray light filtering through clouds that promise rain by afternoon. Rachel emerges from temporary housing showered, dressed in the same practical clothing from yesterday, hair pulled back with military precision. She carries her clipboard and waterproof notebook, walking across the empty parking area toward the Range Operations Building, where lights already glow in the windows. Major David Hughes stands in the lobby reviewing paperwork when she enters. He is 51, tall and lean, with silver threading through dark hair and eyes that have witnessed enough military politics to make him cautious by default. His uniform displays no dust, no wear, pressed and maintained to regulation standard. When Rachel approaches, he looks up from his documents and assesses her with the practiced evaluation of a career officer. "Carter," he says, voice neutral. "Captain Foster briefed me on yesterday's situation. I'm Major Hughes, Range Command Authority, while Colonel Patterson is deployed." He sets his paperwork on the reception desk. "I understand there's a credentialing issue." "Yes, sir. Brussels hasn't responded to our inquiry. The system shows your documentation as classified above Captain Foster's clearance, which raises questions." Hughes crosses his arms, stance widening slightly. "I'm going to be direct. This is irregular. Civilian contractors don't typically have sealed records. Intelligence operatives do. Military personnel with sensitive assignments do. So, which are you?" Rachel meets his gaze without flinching. "Sir, I request permission to review range camera footage from yesterday's training evolution. Timestamp 14/22/17. The deflection is obvious. Hughes's jaw tightens. "That doesn't answer my question. The footage will answer several questions, sir, including irregularities in equipment handling and potential safety violations." "What kind of irregularities?" "Tampering with rifle sights during active qualification, specifically my assigned weapon on lane 6. Rachel's tone remains factual, delivering information without emotional coloring. The camera system records all range activity. The evidence should be clear. Hughes studies her for 3 long seconds. Then he gestures toward the stairs. "Range control room, 2nd floor, west wing. I'll review the footage with you." They climb together, boots echoing in the stairwell. The control room occupies a space dominated by monitors displaying feeds from 12 cameras positioned around the range complex. A young specialist mans the equipment, monitoring morning prep as range personnel arrive and begin daily checks. Hughes dismisses him with a brief order, then takes the seat himself, fingers moving across the keyboard with reasonable competence. "Timestamp 14/22/17, Hughes repeats, pulling up the archived footage. "Lane 6. The screen fills with an overhead view of Rachel's shooting position from yesterday. The angle captures her entire lane plus portions of adjacent areas. Hughes rewinds to 14:15, then plays forward at normal speed. They watch Marcus approach the equipment rack, select Rachel's rifle, glance around to confirm no one is watching closely, and make adjustments to the scope. His movements are quick, practiced, the work of perhaps 20 seconds. Then he returns the rifle to the rack and walks away. Hughes rewinds, plays it again. His expression hardens. "That's deliberate sabotage." "Yes, sir." "Why didn't you report this immediately?" "Because I needed to document a pattern, not an isolated incident." Rachel produces her notebook, flipping to pages filled with timestamps, names, descriptions. Instructor Bennett has demonstrated consistent bias and interference. Yesterday was the most overt example, but not the first. His conduct violates NATO training protocols in at least 8 separate areas. Hughes takes the notebook, reading with increasing focus. His finger traces down the columns of information, pausing on specific entries. "You documented all of this in 1 day?" "I've been observing for 3 days prior to yesterday's official evaluation request. The pattern was established before I ever submitted my slot assignment." Rachel waits while Hughes absorbs this. "I was told Rangemaster Davis approved my request, but Bennett overrode that approval using Davis's emergency leave as justification, another violation of protocol. Why the elaborate setup? If you have evidence of misconduct, standard procedure is to report through command channels. Standard procedure works when the system is clean, sir. This system has corruption at multiple levels. Captain Foster has been covering for Bennett's activities. They served together previously, and that personal loyalty has compromised Foster's judgment." The words land like artillery shells in the small room. Hughes's face goes carefully blank, the expression of an officer hearing serious allegations that could destroy careers and trigger investigations. "Those are significant accusations." "Yes, sir. And I can prove them." Before Hughes can respond, the control room door opens. Captain Foster enters, stopping short when he sees Rachel and the major reviewing footage together. Sir, I wasn't aware we had scheduled a camera review. We didn't. Carter requested it. Come look at this. Hughes gestures at the monitor, where the footage of Marcus tampering with the rifle is paused mid-action. Want to explain what your senior instructor is doing? Foster leans in, squinting at the screen. Recognition flashes across his features, followed immediately by defensive calculation. That could be routine maintenance. Sometimes we adjust equipment between shooters to ensure consistency. Routine maintenance happens at the armory, logged and supervised, Hughes says flatly. This is an instructor covertly altering a candidate's weapon immediately before her qualification attempt. There's no legitimate reason for that. Sir, with respect, we don't know what Bennett's intention was. Could be a misunderstanding. Then let's ask him. Hughes reaches for the radio on his belt. Wait, Foster's voice sharpens. Before we escalate this, I think we should consider the broader context. Carter's credentials remain unverified. Her presence here is questionable. Bennett might have been conducting a legitimate equipment check based on concerns about her authorization level. Rachel watches this unfold with the stillness of someone observing a chess opponent making predicted moves. She does not interrupt, does not argue, simply allows Foster to dig his defensive position deeper. Hughes sets the radio down, attention shifting fully to Foster. Brian, that's weak and you know it. Equipment checks don't involve covert adjustments captured on security footage. And her credentials being above your clearance doesn't give Bennett authority to sabotage her qualification. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying there may be extenuating circumstances we're not seeing. Such as? Foster hesitates, clearly aware that he is losing ground. I'd prefer to discuss this privately, sir. I'd prefer you answer the question. The moment stretches, tension building, like pressure behind a dam. Then boots sound in the hallway, and Marcus Bennett appears in the doorway, gear bag slung over one shoulder. He reads the room instantly. The paused footage on the screen, Foster's defensive posture, Hughes's hard expression, Rachel's quiet observation. Morning, Marcus says carefully. Something wrong? Come in, Instructor Bennett. Close the door. Hughes waits until Marcus complies, then points at the monitor. Explain your actions at 14:20 hours yesterday. Marcus approaches, examining the frozen image of himself adjusting the rifle scope. His face goes through several expressions in quick succession. Surprise, calculation, then forced confusion. That? I was checking the sight alignment. Standard procedure before qualifications. Standard procedure is logged. Your name doesn't appear in the equipment log for any maintenance on Lane 6 rifles yesterday. Must have forgotten to note it. It was quick, just a visual inspection. Visual inspection requires adjusting scope turrets. Hughes's voice could cut steel. That's manipulation, not inspection. Marcus's jaw sets. Sir, I've been running this range for 3 years. I know the difference between maintenance and manipulation. If the camera angle makes it look questionable, that's an optical illusion. Optical illusion, Hughes repeats with dangerous quiet. Specialist Carter, would you care to demonstrate what Bennett's optical illusion actually did to your shooting position? Rachel moves to the keyboard, pulling up a second camera angle showing her shooting evolution. She plays through to the point where she adjusts the windage before firing. The sight had been moved 2 minutes of angle right. I corrected before shooting, which is why my first 3 rounds still grouped center despite the tampering. You corrected in 8 seconds, Hughes observes. That's remarkably fast for someone allegedly unfamiliar with range operations. I've had training, sir. Clearly. Hughes stands, moving to face Marcus directly. Instructor Bennett, you're suspended from range duty effective immediately, pending investigation. Surrender your range badge and vehicle access card. Marcus's face flushes dark red. This is garbage. You're taking her word over mine? She shows up with credentials nobody can verify, shoots one lucky string, and suddenly I'm suspended? One lucky string that overcame your deliberate sabotage, captured on camera. Hughes extends his hand. Badge and card, now. I want union representation. You can have it during the formal investigation. Right now, you're off this range. Marcus's hands shake as he removes the badge and card from his vest, slapping them into Hughes's palm with enough force to make a sharp crack. This is political. She's got friends in Brussels, doesn't she? Someone pulling strings to make her look legitimate. If she has friends in Brussels, they're not the ones who put your hands on that rifle scope. Hughes pockets the credentials. You're dismissed. Report to base personnel office by 0900 for further instructions. Marcus turns on Rachel, stepping close enough to violate personal space boundaries. This isn't over. You think you're clever? You think you've won? When your fake credentials fall apart, when everyone sees what you really are? He reaches out, grabbing the collar of her shirt with both hands. The intent is unclear: intimidation, examination, physical confrontation, but the action crosses every line of acceptable conduct. Hughes moves to intervene, but Marcus has already committed. He yanks the fabric toward himself, pulling Rachel forward, and the shirt material strains against the force. The collar seam begins to separate with tiny popping sounds, threads breaking under tension. Rachel does not pull away, does not fight. She stands absolutely still, letting physics and Marcus's own aggression work against him. The shirt collar tears further, the sound sharp and final. Marcus's grip slips, his momentum carrying him backward half a step. The collar rips completely, tearing down from the neckline across the right shoulder, fabric separating in a ragged line that exposes skin beneath. Silence drops like a hammer. On Rachel's right shoulder, revealed in the fluorescent light of the control room, sits a tattoo. Black ink, professional work. The kind that costs serious money and signifies serious meaning. The design shows a griffin, mythical creature, lion body, eagle head, clutching a shield marked with NATO's compass star. Below the shield, a banner carries text in precise military stencil font, Task Force Griffin. And below that, smaller but unmistakable, TFG-7 2019. Marcus's hands fall away from the torn fabric like he has touched burning metal. His mouth opens, no sound emerging. Foster goes absolutely white, blood draining from his face in visible progression. Hughes stares, recognition dawning in his eyes, followed immediately by something close to shock. "Holy cow," Hughes breathes. Task Force Griffin. Rachel adjusts the torn shirt, pulling it back into place as much as possible, the tattoo still partially visible where fabric hangs loose. She does not speak, does not explain. Just stands there breathing 4-4-4-4, utterly calm, while the men in the room recalibrate everything they thought they understood. Foster finds his voice first, though it comes out strained. "That can't be real. Task Force Griffin was disbanded in 2019. The personnel records are sealed." "The task force was officially disbanded," Rachel says quietly. "The personnel were reassigned to other duties. Some of us to intelligence operations, some to training roles, some to investigative work." She pulls a challenge coin from her pocket, setting it on the control console. The coin gleams dull bronze, Griffin emblem raised on one side, serial number engraved on the other. TFG-7 2019. Cindy 19. Hughes picks up the coin, turning it over in his fingers, checking the details with trained scrutiny. He knows military challenge coins, knows the difference between gift shop trinkets and the real items issued only to specific units. This is real. The weight is right, the craftsmanship authentic, the serial number format matching classified parameters he has seen exactly once in a briefing 8 years ago. "You're Griffin 7, Hughes says, not quite a question. "I was. Officially, that designation no longer exists. Practically, NATO intelligence still finds uses for those of us with specialized skill sets." Rachel taps the keyboard, pulling up a different folder in the camera system. "Sir, I need to show you something else." The screen fills with footage from the equipment shed, timestamp from 4 days ago, early morning before range operations began. Marcus appears, entering with a duffel bag that he proceeds to fill with night vision optics, laser designators, and ballistic measurement equipment. He works quickly, checking items against a handwritten list, then exits with the loaded bag. The camera angle catches his face clearly, removes any possibility of mistaken identity. Hughes's expression goes from shocked to furious. He's stealing equipment. He's filling orders. Black market sales to private military contractors and foreign buyers who shouldn't have access to NATO gear. Rachel advances the footage to another clip, different date, same activity. "He's done this 11 times in the past 6 months. Captain Foster has been falsifying maintenance records to cover the missing inventory." Foster makes a strangled sound. "That's not... I didn't know... You signed 8 separate equipment transfer forms that listed gear as damaged beyond repair when the items were actually functional and diverted for sale." Rachel produces printed documentation from her notebook, pages showing Foster's signature on forms dated and numbered. "You also modified digital logs to match the paper trail. That's not ignorance, Captain. That's conspiracy." "How do you have this?" Foster's voice rises toward panic. "This information is restricted access. NATO intelligence has access to everything. We've been investigating equipment losses across European training facilities for 14 months. This range showed consistent discrepancies. Brussels sent me to determine whether the problem was administrative error or deliberate theft. Rachel's tone remains level, delivering facts without triumph or satisfaction. You made it very easy to determine which. Marcus is backed against the wall, cornered animal awareness in his eyes. You set us up. This whole thing was a setup. I documented your crimes. There's a difference. Rachel looks at Hughes. Sir, there's a shipment scheduled to leave this base at 0730. Marcus was supposed to deliver one final load of stolen equipment to a buyer outside the north gate. If we move now, we can intercept both the gear and the buyer. Hughes checks his watch. 0643, 47 minutes. He reaches for his radio, then pauses. Foster, you're confined to this room. Bennett, same. Neither of you move, neither of you make phone calls. Understood? Neither man responds. Hughes keys his radio. This is Major Hughes. I need military police to range operations control room immediately. I also need a security team at the north gate. Nobody in or out until further notice. He releases the key, then adds, and get me Colonel Patterson on secure line. I don't care what time zone he's in. The next 40 minutes unfold with military efficiency. MPs arrive, taking Marcus and Foster into custody with handcuffs and rights notifications. The stolen equipment is located in Marcus's personal vehicle, a pickup truck parked behind the equipment shed, duffel bags loaded and ready for transport. The buyer, a nervous civilian claiming to be a surplus dealer, is detained at the north gate trying to talk his way past suddenly uncooperative guards. Rachel provides statements, documentation, photographic evidence compiled over days of careful observation. She identifies 3 additional base personnel who were aware of the theft ring and either participated or remained silent. She produces communications intercepts showing Marcus's contact with black market networks across 4 countries. The case builds itself, layer upon layer, until even the most skeptical investigator would find the evidence overwhelming. By 0800, Colonel Patterson has been briefed via secure video call. His response is immediate and unambiguous. Full investigation, complete transparency, and personal commendations for whoever broke this operation. When Hughes explains that the breakthrough came from an undercover intelligence operative, Patterson's eyebrows climb toward his hairline. Griffin, the colonel says, voice tinny through the laptop speakers, I thought that program was shut down. The designation was retired, sir. The personnel were not. Hughes glances at Rachel, who stands off camera. Brussels embedded one here without informing local command. Because local command might have been compromised, Patterson finishes. Smart. Risky as hell, but smart, he pauses. I want a personal debrief when I return. And Hughes, make sure she gets proper recognition. People who do this kind of work rarely receive public credit, but they deserve private acknowledgement at minimum. Yes, sir. The call ends. Hughes turns to Rachel, who has remained quiet throughout the operational chaos. You took significant personal risk running this investigation alone. If Bennett had realized what you were doing earlier, if he'd been violent instead of just arrogant. He was violent, sir, just not competently. Rachel touches the torn collar of her shirt. And I wasn't entirely alone. Master Sergeant Fletcher provided corroborating observations. His testimony will strengthen the case. Bob Fletcher, that old war hero, actually helped. He recognized what I was doing and chose to support it. Rachel allows herself the smallest smile. Good people notice when systems fail. They just need someone willing to act on what they notice. If you want to see justice delivered in full, share this video now. Part 3 will reveal the wider network, and it's bigger than anyone expected. Over the following hours, consequences cascade through the range command structure, like dominoes falling in carefully arranged rows. Marcus Bennett is charged with theft of military property, conspiracy to defraud NATO, and violation of international weapons trafficking laws. The charges carry potential sentences totaling 18 years in military prison. His instructor certifications are revoked permanently. His military service record, previously decorated with commendations and positive evaluations, is amended to reflect the investigation findings. Future employers conducting background checks will see exactly what he did and exactly what price he paid. Captain Brian Foster faces related charges for falsifying official documents, conspiracy, and failure to report criminal activity. His officer commission undergoes review for possible revocation. The retirement benefits he expected after 20 years of service now hang in question, dependent on the outcome of court-martial proceedings. His name, once considered for promotion to major, instead becomes synonymous with corruption and betrayed trust. The investigation expands beyond the immediate perpetrators. 2 equipment specialists and 1 logistics coordinator are implicated through financial records showing unexplained deposits coinciding with theft dates. All 3 face administrative separation from NATO service and potential criminal charges, depending on their cooperation with investigators. The message spreads quickly through the base. Corruption will be found, and those responsible will face consequences regardless of rank or tenure. For Rachel, official recognition comes in forms both public and private. Major Hughes submits a formal commendation to NATO headquarters, detailing her investigative work and the successful resolution of a multinational equipment theft operation. Brussels responds with classified confirmation of her identity, service record, and current assignment status. The documents, previously sealed above Hughes's clearance, are partially declassified to allow proper acknowledgement of her contribution. In the Range Operations Building, now secured as a crime scene, Hughes finds Rachel reviewing final documentation before her departure. Brussels wants you back immediately. They have another assignment already queued. Always do, Rachel says, without looking up from her papers. Before you go, I need to ask, why suffer through the harassment? You could have identified yourself immediately, shut down Bennett's behavior before it escalated. Why endure it?